My name is Mr. Cestaric, and I teach the dual credit 3D printing class DPT 100. So this class is an introduction to learning how to model software and create different shapes using Fusion 360. It has the capability of going into mechanical engineering and some other fields at U of L. AMIS, which is the Additive Manufacturing Institute for Science and Technology, is where it would kind of have a parallel, which we're working on trying to build a partnership with. So in the very beginning of the class, they're just learning how to use the actual sketch tool, to create their shapes. And then they end up using extrusion. Extrusion allows them to build different shapes. A couple of the very first things that they learn how to do is called a twist tool. The other thing, and I don't know if you can see it, you can see the actual letters. They will learn how to engrave different letters on their shapes. But also they'll use what they call the rotate feature within it. So this is one of them. Then they also had to go through and create their own coffee cup. It allows them to use the rotate feature. They can either do it by using a cylinder and extruding up and then cutting out the middle of it. And then they have to create their own handle. The problem with the handle is people had to watch, and I don't know if you can see it, they had to watch to make sure their handle didn't go inside their cup. If it went inside the cup, then they had to redesign and remodify. So in Fusion 360, it has the ability to go back to the timeline and change the modification, and then you update the part, if that makes sense. And I'm not done. And as they progress through the class, they start learning other features that are in it. They can actually, when you have a circular feature, it's called embossing. You're embossing the letters that go around the shape. And so it's a different thing that's even not even in the class. I've just told them we're going to add on to it. Then I had some seniors that they have created what they call is a class ring. We're working on these gradually. The problem that we're running into is just the amount of printing that needs to be done in order to get it done. I'm working on trying to resolve some issues that we're having with our 3D printers right now. Because, it's the truth. I don't run from the truth. I feel like 3D printing is a way that allows students to connect to different things in the real world where maybe they like to design things. And that's the whole point of this class. It's about design. And we're learning, as we've gone through Unit 7, they have started to add in what they call a mesh mixer, where you have the ability to take two different shapes and mesh them together. And then we've also created some very, very unique shapes for the final as well. There are 2 different tests that are in the course that they have to take. It basically verifies that they understand what they're doing, if that makes sense. Trying to think here. Then they go into Unit 7 and they talk about different loft features, sweep tools. This is using what they call is the sweep tool. Can y'all see that? And so basically you end up creating your shape and what path you want it to go on, and they take their actual dimensions and sweep it along. And then it creates the actual shape around that path. And so that's what I said, there's many different characteristics, and to me, this is more problem-solving oriented class where you're trying to figure out things. The course is very video-based. It is self-paced, but I am pushing people constantly. I'm like, we're kind of trying to push. They will eventually create what they call a soap dish. It allows to kind of use the mesh feature where they can actually create the shape and make it a little bit differently. And then they go into Unit 9. Unit 9, they have the ability to create their own product. They create their own product, they gotta do the research on their product, and then figure out what the cost of the product is gonna be. And usually they're trying to find something that's gonna make sense to what's going on with the real world. Unit 10, they ended up using Google Sheets and doing all the math behind it from a standpoint of unit price, as well as how many you're printing. It also depends upon what material you're printing off in. We will talk about different materials of PLA, ABS, PETG, and different ones. It's just that right now we only have PLA in the building. Because when we start looking at resin printing can be flammable. So that's the reason why we don't have resin printers right now. I feel like sometimes we have our different pathways, and maybe programming is not for you. By being tied to programming, this is an additive manufacturing. It gives people another way to connect, because when you actually run the slicing tool, I can show kids all the code for the slicing. There's code for the slicing. It produces what they call a G code. That G code, like G29, tells you when it starts and when it stops. There's different codes for all these 3D printers, and so it's running and it's doing false or true for what's being printed. So coding does tie to the class. So to me, that's one thing. Two, I just like the creativity of it. I mean, you look at the innovation the kids are making. I mean, this is my smaller group. The scholars behind me currently are not in the IT pathway. They're either in ag or business. They're in a different pathway. But this gives them a different outlook on what's available for when they leave high school. This is a dual credit. They're getting 3 college credits for this class. So therefore, it's going to open up other doors for them as they go. I just know that there's 3D printing is on the rise, and you're going to have more and more people trying to do different things. I've got some students that have their own 3D printer now. So I'm trying to teach them about slicing. Slicing is there's 3 parts of 3D printing. 1, design. 2 is being able to understand your slicing on why things stick to the bed and why they don't, and being a problem solver and trying to fix it. The 3rd part is how to sell your product. So to me, that's the reason why I would want someone to take the course. Truthfully, the class is 100% self-paced. You can ask any student that we've had in here, it's very self-paced. I only get involved when they get stuck. And yes, the videos are older, but also I've shown them where we can make modifications, where in some of the designs you end up having to go back to a design that was before and then tweak it accordingly. I'm not arguing that some of the videos need to be updated, which this is a course that we are paired with what they call a Somerset Community College. That's where I took the courses. I've gone through the training. And I just think this is where it's going to come down to where, I like how the courses run. You can ask any student that I have, it's very self-paced. I've also made team leads. Team leads basically are the first person they go to, but then they're in pods. As you can see behind me, you have a pod of 4 and a pod of, it should be a pod of 3. And they work together. If they get stuck, they'll go and help one another. The one thing I like about this class is that the videos are able to be translated into someone's native language. So like in YouTube, instead of saying English, you can change it to Spanish, Urdu, Vietnamese, whatever it is. So therefore, to me, I feel like it lends to our multi-language population that we have in our building. So I don't want that to be a barrier to students not taking the class, if that makes sense.